The soup didn't just spill, it exploded across her silk dress, in the middle of a glittering, five-star dining hall. Gasps cut through the chandeliers, whispers of laughter at nearby tables, and phones. Rising to capture the humiliation, the waiter smirked. The manager declared her a disturbance, and security closed in. But what no one knew, what none of them imagined, was that the woman they mocked in silence owned the very hotel they were standing in. The soup did not spill like an accident. It cascaded forward with deliberate cruelty, steaming broth arcing through the chandelier light before splattering across silk. Gasps sliced the air in the hotel's grand dining hall, that sacred cathedral of wealth where crystal chandeliers sparkled and every polished surface reflected status. Forks froze halfway to lips. Conversations fractured into silence. In that instant, elegance transformed into theater. The woman at the center of the spectacle remained still. Her navy dress, once immaculate, darkened under the spreading stain. Lobster bisque dripped down her sleeve, pooled in her lap, marking her like a target in front of 100 watching eyes. She reached for a napkin, calm, precise, as if controlling her movements could control the narrative. But the narrative was already being written. The waiter's smirk told the story he wanted told. His expression wasn't embarrassment or apology. It was triumph. He straightened his tie, wiped his hands on linen, glanced around as if expecting applause. His eyes lingered on her plain handbag, her modest attire, her quiet demeanor. She didn't belong here, and now everyone could see. Whispers traveled table to table. Did you see that? She's not even reacting. Probably can't afford the cleaning bill. Some chuckled. Others craned their necks. Phones lifted. Liv, the woman, did not speak. Her silence unsettled the audience more than any protest could have. In a place where status thrived on noise and performance, her stillness felt like defiance, and defiance was intolerable. The waiter leaned toward another server, his voice pitched just loud enough to carry. Some people wander in thinking they belong here. They don't. The words floated across the marble like smoke, poisonous, lingering. Guests smirked. Arrogance, disguised as persemilate. It was not the spill alone that humiliated her. It was the performance, the waiter's grin, the whispers in pearls and cufflinks, the silent judgment of strangers. It was the certainty with which they labeled her as lesser. Confidence built not on truth, but on assumption. Her phone buzzed. The screen flashed a reminder. A live stream camera caught a glimpse. Boardroom. Inside the hall, no one noticed. Online, chaos erupted. Wait, boardroom. She's got a meeting upstairs? Who is she really? But inside, the humiliation rolled on. The manager appeared, heavy with authority. His suit announced him before his words did. He scanned the scene, absorbed the whispers, and chose his side. With a booming tone, he addressed her not as a guest, but as a problem. Step outside, he barked. You're a disturbance. Phones tilted closer. Guests shifted. Some smirked in agreement. Others frowned at the injustice. The couple live streaming whispered, "This feels wrong." Their viewership ticked past. The woman remained seated, back straight, hands folded neatly on the table. She did not flinch. Her refusal to move was not stubbornness. It was dignity. Security guards hovered at the edges. Radios crackled. Their presence meant to intimidate. Guests whispered eagerly, savoring the drama. Arrogance perfumed the air. The waiter basked. The manager puffed his chest. The crowd leaned in, choosing sides. Most clung to power. Only a handful noticed her calm, her measured breath, the glance at her phone before silencing it with surgical precision. They thought it was humiliation. She knew it was set up. Her name was Naomi Richards. To the pearls and cufflinks, she looked like an outsider. To the waiter, a nuisance. To the manager, a trespasser. They did not see the nights she worked double shifts in nursing homes to pay tuition. They did not see her bent under flickering street lamps when the power was cut off. They did not see the meals skipped, the friendships lost, the dreams delayed, all sacrificed to build a future she had promised herself. Naomi's calmness wasn't privilege. It was forged in a resilience. Every insult she had endured, every humiliation she had survived, had trained her for this moment. The waiter strutted by again, smirking. The manager muttered loudly about certain people who sneak into places they don't belong. Guests chuckled, phones zoomed. Online comments split between disbelief and outrage. This feels wrong. Why are they treating her like that? But Naomi's notebook, tucked safely in her bag, held the truth. Contracts, signatures, deals. Not props, but proof of an empire in the making. The humiliation tonight wasn't about soup. It wasn't about stains. It was the same message she had heard her entire life. You don't belong here. She had heard it in classrooms, in offices, in boardrooms where her voice was ignored until echoed by someone else. Tonight was another stage, another actor, reciting the tired script. But she did not flinch. She did not break. Her silence was not weakness. It was warning. Online, viewers sensed it. Comments surged. She's way too calm. She's got something. That she's not who they think she is. The counters surged into tens of thousands. The room thought they were watching her humiliation. The world outside was waiting for her reveal. And it was coming. Her phone buzzed again. Boardroom, 8 p.m. This time live streamers zoomed in. Screenshots flew across Twitter. Online chat. She's got something big coming. They were right. The dining hall no longer felt like a restaurant. It had transformed into an arena. The soup-stained woman at the corner table became the spectacle, the focus of every pair of eyes. The waiter, drunk on attention, strutted past her again and again, exaggerating each movement for effect. He balanced empty trays as if performing on a stage, smirking whenever he caught another phone recording him. To the live stream audiences swelling by the minute, his act looked less like service and more like arrogance parading unchecked. The manager leaned into the moment, his voice carrying across marble and crystal. He spoke as though narrating to the crowd, painting Naomi as the source of chaos, the disturbance that had to be contained. His words weren't for her. They were for the audience. Each sentence gave the patrons permission to laugh, to whisper, to nod in agreement. And they did. Some chuckled into napkins, delighted at the rare entertainment. Others rolled their eyes at her stillness, mistaking calmness for weakness. Whispers traveled like electricity. Why doesn't she leave? She's embarrassing herself. If she had any class, she'd be gone by now. Phones caught it all. Cruelty, broadcast, beyond those gilded walls. The waiter circled back, leaned in too close. Pretending to adjust cutlery, he brushed her notebook to the floor. The leather cover slid open, contracts and notes spilling across the carpet. Gasps rippled through the crowd, followed by laughter. The waiter crouched theatrically, holding one page aloft like a trophy. His smirk said it all. Props. He dropped it carelessly, feeding off attention. Naomi bent slowly, deliberately, stacking each page one by one. Phone zoomed in on her hands, the calm, steady motions. Her composure unsettled more than outrage would have. Outrage would have ethed their story. Calmness suggested something deeper, something dangerous. The manager seized the chance to escalate. His booming voice echoed off chandeliers. This establishment has no tolerance for frauds or pretenders. He gestured toward her like a prosecutor, showing evidence. The crowd reacted. Some clapped. Others smirked knowingly. Justice, they thought, was being served. Security shifted closer. The couple live streaming whispered nervously, "They're gonna kick her out. This is insane." Their audience passed, but the waiter wasn't finished. He returned with a glass of water, tilted it just enough for a trickle to slide across the linen toward her notebook. Phones zoomed. Laughter erupted. Online comments exploded. "This is harassment. Why's she so calm? Something's coming. I swear." Naomi Richards remained motionless. Only the rhythm of her breathing gave her away. Her calm wasn't silence anymore. It was a force. Every insult only built the tension tighter. The livestream world felt it. This wasn't weakness. This was patience. Inside, arrogance reigned. The manager puffed his chest, declaring she would be banned permanently. Applause from a few tables, hollow but sharp. Naomi sat still, hands folded, gaze unwavering. Her silence became unbearable for the arrogant. Power thrives on our reaction, and her refusal to give one left their performance hanging. They pushed harder, mistaking composure for weakness, blind to the fact that each step drew them closer to their own undoing. The waiter leaned in one last time, voice dripping with mockery. Phones caught every word. The crowd laughed, some nervously, some gleefully. The humiliation had peaked, or so they thought, because humiliation, when pushed too far, always snaps back. And Naomi Richards, calm and silent, was waiting. The dining hall was now a pressure chamber. Arrogance swirled like heat. Guests leaned forward, desperate for a finale. Security hovered. The waiter smirked wider. The manager stood tall, chest puffed, like a judge about to sentence her. But finales have a way of betraying expectations. Naomi remained seated. Her stained dress clung like armor, her silence unbroken. Then, with deliberate care, she reached into her purse. Phones zoomed in. Livestream counters surged. The crowd hushed. She placed a single card on the table. Ivory white, gold-embossed edges. The manager scoffed. Guests craned their necks. Phones focused. The card read, "Dr. Naomi Richards, Chairwoman, Richards Hospitality Group." Silence. Suffocating silence. Whispers collided like waves. "Wait. Richards Hospitality? The owner?" Phones lit with comments. "No way. She owns it. Plot twist of the century." The manager froze. The waiter's smirk vanished. Security faltered. Guests stiffened, guilt flooding faces that minutes ago had laughed. And then, the elevator chimed. Brushed steel doors slid open. Out stepped executives in tailored suits. Their pace urgent, their faces pale. At their center, a tall man in Armani, confident, unmistakable. His presence shifted the entire room. He spotted Naomi instantly. "Mother." The word detonated through the hall like a thunderclap. Gasps, collective and sharp. Phones shook in trembling hands. The livestream audience exploded, tens of thousands flooding with fire emojis and disbelief. The waiter staggered backward. The manager paled. Guests froze. Marcus Richards III, CEO of Richards Hospitality Group, youngest in the company's history, heir to the empire, the man whose name defined the very building they sat in, and the woman they had mocked, humiliated, dismissed, was not just a guest. She was the owner. The chandeliers glittered above a room drowned in silence. The power dynamic flipped in a heartbeat. Naomi rose slowly, calm, composed. The stains on her dress no longer shame, but proof. Her silence had been patience. Her stillness had been strength. And now, the truth roared louder than any arrogance in the room. The humiliation was no longer hers. It belonged to them. The reveal had detonated through the dining hall like an earthquake. The word mother, spoken by the young CEO, still echoed in the silence. Phones trembled in the hands of live streamers, capturing faces that only moments earlier had laughed at a woman they thought beneath them. The stain of soup no longer marked humiliation. It marked arrogance exposed. The waiter froze, tray clutched tight, his smirk erased. Lips quivering, knees bending, as though the truth was too heavy to hold. He hadn't mocked a guest. He had mocked the owner of the chain whose uniform he wore. The manager shrank into himself, once puffed with importance, now stammering weak excuses. Procedures, mistakes. But his voice cracked. His excuses dissolved like smoke. Every eye cut through him like glass, arrogance collapsing into desperation. The crowd became a mirror of disbelief. Pearls that had rattled in laughter now lay stiff against throats. Champagne glasses trembled. Some guests hid behind napkins. Others stared wide-eyed, unable to reconcile what they'd just seen. And then came the whispers. She owns the hotel. She's the chairwoman. That's her son, the CEO. Each whisper spread wider, thicker, until the very air trembled with recognition. Live streams went wild. Careers ruined in real time. Justice served. Respect is not negotiable. Naomi Richards didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Her silence, her presence dismantled arrogance piece by piece. Her son stepped forward. Executives fanned out, tablets glowing, notepads scribbling, documenting everything. Corporate justice had been set in motion. The crowd shifted again. Some leaned in, desperate to witness history. Others shrank back in guilt. A ripple of applause, tentative at first, grew into fractured clapping. Not entertainment applause, but relief. A release of tension, a recognition of power revealed. The manager tried again, his voice higher, pleading, but every word was weaker than the last. The waiter muttered apologies, but they fell flat. Too late. Too little. Naomi stood calm, her silence louder than any accusation. With just her gaze, she unraveled them both. Justice had begun. The machinery of accountability was already turning, and the stain on her dress, it was no longer humiliation. It was proof. The dining hall sat in silence. Chandeliers still sparkled. Crystal still shimmered. But the air had changed. Where arrogance once thrived, respect now filled the room. Naomi Richards stood at the center. Soup-stained silk clung to her frame. No longer humiliation, but armor. She wore it like a reminder. Arrogance had tried to diminish her, and failed. The waiter trembled at the side, tray discarded, his arrogance shattered. He couldn't lift his eyes. The manager hunched, muttering half-sentences no one listened to. Authority stripped away. The crowd transformed. The same guests who had laughed now whispered apologies. The same faces that had mocked now burned red with shame. Applause began, awkward, tentative, then grew louder. Not the applause of an audience amused, but of witnesses acknowledging truth. Naomi did not bask. She didn't bow. She didn't smile. She stood steady, calm, composed. Her silence commanded more than words ever could. Executives moved swiftly. HR whispered to security. Termination papers already drafted. The waiter escorted out. Career ended at the same table where he had mocked her. The manager stripped of power in real time. Their downfall was not cruelty. It was inevitable. The crowd now saw her differently. The handbag once mocked, now a symbol of substance. The notebook once dismissed as props, now the ledger of an empire. Her calmness, once mistaken for weakness, revealed itself as strength. Live streams captured the transformation. Comments poured. She didn't even shout. She owned them with silence. This is real power. Clips replayed endlessly, turning Naomi from a stranger into an icon of dignity. The applause grew steady, louder, echoing across the marble and chandeliers. Strangers stood, clapping with reverence. Naomi acknowledged it with a nod. Nothing more. She hadn't endured for applause. She had endured because dignity isn't negotiable. Her son, the CEO, stood beside her, his voice firm, reminding everyone, respect is not optional. Dignity is not a privilege. It's a right. And the transformation was complete. The dining hall no longer saw humiliation. They saw a lesson. Naomi turned to leave. Guests parted instinctively. Phones captured her walk. Not as shame, but as triumph. The stain on her dress glowed golden in the chandelier light. She had not fought with anger. She had endured with patience. And in enduring, she turned humiliation into respect, arrogance into downfall, silence into power. The hotel would never be the same, and neither would they. When the echoes of applause faded, and the chandeliers returned to their quiet gleam, the dining hall carried more than the remnants of spilled soup. It carried a lesson carved into marble, crystal, and memory. What began as humiliation had transformed into something far greater, a story of dignity, patience, and power revealed in silence. Naomi Richards left the hall not as a victim, not as a spectacle, but as a symbol. The soup stain still marked her dress, but it no longer spoke of insult. It spoke of survival, of sacrifice, of resilience that could not be erased. She wore it like a badge of endurance, a reminder to everyone watching that true power does not scream. It does not ask for permission. True power waits. True power endures. And when it reveals itself, it cannot be denied. For those who mocked her, the waiter with his smirk, the manager with his booming arrogance, the guests with their cruel whispers, the night had become a mirror. They saw themselves reflected in their cruelty, exposed by their assumptions, stripped of their illusions. Their downfall was not just lost jobs or lost respect. It was the knowledge that arrogance had destroyed them. Long before Naomi's truth was revealed, the crowd shifted in reverence, whispering apologies they would never speak aloud, carrying guilt they could not shake, looking at her with respect, not because of her wealth, not because of her son, but because of the way she carried herself in the face of humiliation. Her silence had been her shield. Her patience had been her weapon. Her dignity had been her victory. And the world outside saw it, too. Live streams replayed millions of times. Headlines erupted within hours. But what captured hearts wasn't the downfall of arrogance. It was the calm, steady strength of a woman who refused to bow. Clips spread with captions. True power is silent. Respect is not negotiable. Across the country, people saw themselves in Naomi, the underdog underestimated, the worker dismissed, the quiet figure mocked by arrogance. Her story became their story, proof that patience can outlast cruelty and dignity can dismantle arrogance without a single raised voice. The moral was undeniable. Never underestimate anyone. Respect is not about appearances. True power is silent. Honor is earned through sacrifice. Naomi's life, built on long nights, double shifts, rejection turned to determination, became the evidence. Her sacrifices had not only built an empire, but had crafted the composure to endure humiliation and turn it into revelation. As she left the hall, the stain on her dress gleamed under chandeliers, not as disgrace, but as victory. The applause rose again, hesitant at first, then unstoppable, not because she demanded it, but because the truth compelled it. The night ended not with noise, but with understanding. Guests returned to their meals, but none tasted the same. Phones lowered, but their screens still burned with the image of a calm woman standing in silence as power unfolded around her. The chandeliers still glowed, the marble still gleamed, but the dining hall would never be the same. And neither would anyone who had witnessed the truth unfold, because dignity, once revealed, is unforgettable.